All right, let's do some Mathity-Math. So it says here, find the quotient of the expression below. So, as always, let's see here, it says the quotient. And it is good to remember that the quotient, that is the answer to a division problem. And as you can see here, we are dividing. We have this expression in the numerator. It's in fractional form. It's being divided by this expression in the denominator. Okay, so we are going to practice long polynomial division. And so the first thing we want to do is kind of set that whole thing up. So first things first, we look at the denominator, and that is where we find our divisor. Okay, so we're going to use that as our divisor. The divisor is the piece that just goes on the outside. So I'm just going to write x plus 2. Okay, I'm going to build my dividing box. I should probably learn the official name for that. I'm not sure what it is. But yeah, it's the dividing box for now. We'll make it work. Now, before I write in the dividend or the numerator here, I do want to make that quick check and check the degrees of my variables. So I see here it goes 4, 2, and so there's a gap because we want it to go 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and it's not quite there. So because of that gap, I want to allot for that gap here when I write this down. So you can do it a couple ways. So I write 7x fourth, and there's a gap there. And then I write plus 2x squared plus 8x plus 2. I'm going to extend that line because I didn't leave myself enough space. Okay, now some people really don't like that gap right there. And if you don't, you can write in a 0x third to the third power, and that's fine too. Now you can see it goes 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0 for the degrees of our variables. Okay, so we start that four-step process. So we start out here with the term with the highest degree, that is the x, and we go inside to the term with the highest degree, and because they're in order, that is 7x to the fourth. And we ask the question. Step 1 is ask the question. The question is, what does x need to multiply to become 7x to the fourth? Well, the answer to that question is 7x to the third. And you can see my degrees are lining up, and that's just good math practice. Okay, so everything's lined up. I can move now to step 2. Step 2 is we multiply down or distribute down. So I say, well, what is 7x to the third power times x? Well, 7x to the third power times x is 7x to the fourth power. And then I keep going. 7x to the third power times 2 is 14x to the third power. And you see here, my degrees are lined up, and I'm doing a good job. Okay, step 3 is to subtract. So we're going to subtract. So this has to become a minus because it's like multiplying it by a -1. And this sign needs to change to a negative because we are subtracting each term. In general, when you do this, you just change the sign of whatever you had, and you'll be just fine. Okay, 7x to the fourth minus 7x to the fourth is 0. That's a good sign. And we have a 0, and we're taking away 14x to the third power, and so we're going to be right back with 14x to the third power. The last step of the process is just bring it down. Probably the easiest step of the process. You just have to draw an arrow and rewrite the term. 2x squared. Okay, so now we start the pattern over again. We just ask the question, and the question is, what does this x have to be multiplied to become a negative 14x cubed? Okay. What does this x multiply to be negative 14x cubed? Well, that is just negative 14x squared. And again, you see our terms are all lined up by degree. Good job. Okay, so that's done. So then we just multiply down. So negative 14x squared times x is just negative 14x to the third power. Negative 14x squared times 2 is just negative 28x squared. And right there, my numbers are lining up nicely by degree, so we're in good shape. Next step is subtract. If we're going to subtract, we just now change those signs. Negative 14x cubed plus 14x cubed is 0. Got those zeros coming down on the left. That's a good sign. And 2x squared plus 28x squared, well, that is just a positive 30x squared. Okie dokie. Last step of the process, bring down. Let me just fill that in nicely. Wow. Okay. And so I brought down my positive 8x. Okay, start the process again. I'm going to go ahead and shift the camera down a little bit because we might need that space. Okay. And so we ask the question. Well, what's the question? What does this x need to be multiplied by to become 30x squared? So what does this x need to be multiplied by to become 30x squared? Well, I just multiply that by 30x. That's it. So now we do the next step, which is multiply down. 30x times x is 30x squared. And 30x times 2 is 60x. The next step in the process, step 3, is to subtract. So this is a minus, and that becomes a minus. 30x squared minus 30x squared is 0. 0, 0, 0, right? That means we're on the right track. Now we have a positive 8x, and we're going to take away from it 60x's. So that's going to leave us with a negative 52x. And then bring it on down. Step 4, bring it on down. And we get to do it one more time, it looks like. So the question is, what do we multiply this x by to become negative 52x? Well, we just multiply by negative 52. Okie dokie. Negative 52 times x is negative 52x. Negative 52 times 2 is a negative 104. Next step, we subtract. Change the signs, and we are in business. Negative 52x plus 52x is 0. Look at it go. We're on the right track. And 2 plus 104 is 106. And now because there is not a variable here, you have this, the highest degree is outside here in the divisor, and there's really nowhere for that to go, so you know you can stop. And this right here becomes the numerator of your remainder. Okay, so that's the numerator of your remainder. And so what I do here, because it's positive, I'll write a plus sign. This is my numerator, 106. And my denominator is just my divisor. Just like before, actually, if you think about it. In the beginning, our divisor was the denominator. Well, in the end, our denominator is our that is hard to say. Let's try that again. In the beginning, our denominator was our divisor. And in the end, our divisor is our denominator. And there you go. And that is your answer. All right, as always, go ahead and subscribe if you want more practice problems. And if you think of a problem I haven't made yet, leave a comment below, and I'll try to make it for you. Thanks.